Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Cold Case Christmas. And in this episode, we're going to the quiet, small town of Evansdale in Iowa. And we're going to look at the brutal murders of 10-year-old Lyric Cook Morrissey and 8-year-old Elizabeth Collins. This is the Evansdale murders. The small, quiet, normally peaceful rural town of Evansdale, Iowa, was rocked on the 13th of July 2012 when first cousins Lyric and Elizabeth went missing. They were blood cousins through their mothers. The mothers were sisters. And this was a lovely summer's day. And they were dropped off at their grandma Wilma's house, as they often were. This particular morning, they decided to go out for a bike ride. They were first cousins, but they were also best friends. They got on very well. They loved riding bikes. They loved being out in the fresh air. And this day was no different than any other. So, just after midday, Lyric and Elizabeth decided to head out of the front yard to go for that bike ride. They were seen biking on Gilbert Drive, which is about 1.5 miles from Wilma's house, between 12:30 and 1 p.m. Mayors Lake, popular destination for people fishing and just for hanging out, was not very far from Gilbert Drive, and they were later seen riding together in the 1000 block of Lake Avenue, and that's very close to the lake. And it was the last time that they were spotted alive. When they didn't return home within the hour, Wilma Cook, their grandma, started to get worried. But she wasn't overly panicked until Lyric's mother, Misty, came home. And at that point, they put their heads together and thought, this really isn't like Lyric and Elizabeth to be gone so long. Maybe something bad's happened, maybe they've had an accident on their bikes. So they became increasingly worried about the girls' well-being, and that's when they started the first searches. Just before 2:50 p.m, Lyric and Elizabeth's family, who'd all congregated to help with the search, neighbours were out searching. It was just a lovely summer's day, and surely the girls will any minute come round the corner really sorry or with bloody knees because they fell off their bikes. But they reported the girls missing to the local Evansdale Police Department. So the Evansdale Police Department started a search, joined by deputies from the Black Hawk Sheriff's Department. Local fire department was deployed as well, and again, there was a bunch of searchers who were, from the local neighbourhoods. Alarmingly, around 4 p.m, on a trail located on the southeast corner of Mayors Lake, Lyric and Elizabeth's bikes were found. It was a local firefighter who found those bikes, alerted the police, who then told the family, and they were really thinking the worst. Had they gone in the lake? Had they tried to go for a swim? All of these thoughts rushing through their heads. Apart from the bikes and Elizabeth's purse that was there at the scene, there was no clues on what could have happened to them. So the police started house-to-house inquiries. They got security footage from local businesses, and the girls were spotted. The girls made it to that lake of their own volition. So the lake was partially drained so that they could, search the lake just in case the girls had decided to go for a swim and sadly drowned. FBI specially trained divers helped with that search, and there was no sign of them. Known sex offenders were interviewed. Nothing. The girls had just vanished into thin air. There was rumours in the local community that this perhaps was something to do with 10-year-old Lyric's family. They'd had problems with drugs in the past. Once they'd ruled out drowning, Abduction became the kind of obvious go-to theory. However, the families did come under considerable scrutiny, not only by locals, not only by social media, but also by the police as well. The authorities and the press concentrated more on Dan Morrissey, father of Lyric. Dan was divorced from Lyric's mother, and he had a rough time with authorities. He'd been involved in crime. He was involved in several ongoing criminal investigations, but there's no evidence that drugs or the drug world has anything to do with this case at all. There's also been a lot of speculation on social media that this case is somehow linked to the Delphi case, just a few hours away over the border in Delphi, Indiana. Of course, that's the murders of 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German. Lyric being 10 and Elizabeth being 8, there's a bit of an age difference there, but still, 2 girls going missing in a safe environment. On the surface, it does seem that the cases are somewhat similar, but both cops in Indiana and those in Iowa have said that there doesn't appear to be any links between the 2 cases. It's been incredibly hard on Lyric and Elizabeth's families. On the 20th of August, so about a month after the girls went missing, Misty, Lyric's mother, was rushed to hospital after being found unconscious in her own home. She'd mixed her medication with alcohol, which is never a good thing, and she couldn't cope. She was sentenced to 10 years in jail due to drug-related offences, but was released a year later. Elizabeth's family have been very proactive, giving out posters, publicising the girls' disappearance. But the girls remained just gone, until Wednesday the 5th of December of that year 2012. 2 sets of human remains were found at Seven Bridges Park by a group of hunters. This is about 20 miles away from Evansdale, very rural area. The remains are being partly concealed in a very remote area of the park with little to no foot traffic, and it was just completely by chance that these hunters found these remains, alerted the police, and eventually the identities of the bodies were confirmed to be that of Lyric and Elizabeth. The case remains unsolved to this day. There's been over 2,000 leads in the investigation, and every tip that comes in is reviewed by the investigative team and evaluated for its relevance and to determine whether or not there's credibility in it. There's been interviews, there's been warrants, there's been information analysis, there's been a full-scale, full-on investigation, and yet the identity of Lyric and Elizabeth's killer remains elusive to this day. The investigative team asks anyone who wants to report information about the Evansdale murders to direct it to the email address ourmissingiowagirls, all one word, at dps.state.ia.us. I'll leave that email link in the description box because that's not an easy one to get right first time round. Hopefully one day this case will be solved. 11 years later, the families are still waiting for answers, for justice for Lyric and Elizabeth, and that one tip could be the thing that breaks this case wide open. Let me know what you think about the Evansdale murders, and I'll see you in the next episode of Cold Case Christmas. Bye, guys.
Come on,